This hangout is on air live, I think. Hi, there are 8 of you here. I think, I don't see me. Did I not turn my camera on? Okay, here it goes. Here it goes.
Live, I think.
Oh, I forgot to turn the volume up.
Hi, there are.
Well, now you know. Now you know how the delay goes. So I have you open in Safari so I can see your comments, but then I also see myself, which is distracting. And then I have, it's hard to explain. There's 2 browsers open right now. So I need to mute this. Another funny thing is it really, really helps when you're going to do a live stream to have a camera of some kind or a laptop. I was all ready. I sat down. I was like, my lights are on. What is missing? And I was like, my laptop. So it's that kind of morning. And it is Vlogmas Day 4. Have yourself a very witchy Vlogmas. Day 4. Day 4. I'm getting better. I'm getting better at managing the food situation before I come on here. Food is a thing with me. I have to eat my food. So I managed to get some slap on my face and get the food in. I'm also just going to sit here and kill time to see who wants to join us. It says there's 11 people watching. I hope the chat is working. If you say hi, I would love it. So I know you're here. Meow-alina. That is a name. Meow-alina. Wait a minute. Are you on Twitter? Do I know you by a different name on Twitter? Good morning to you, by the way. Hello. Hi, everyone. Yay, Jeanine. Jeanine. I said Jeannie yesterday, but I did not see that N in there. Janine. Amber's here. Hello. Hello. The owl necklace that I was wearing yesterday when I was trying to hide my boobs on camera. That was a birthday present from my friend Amber, who is an awesome witch. Solavi Studio, hello. Hi, Linda. Yay. You are Meow Excelina on Twitter. Okay, I love me some Twitter people. I'm just going to kind of shoot the shit for a second before we get into talking about the fabulous subject of anxiety and depression. And speaking of anxiety, it was a little anxiety producing thinking about coming on a live stream to talk about something that is so serious for so many people. And I feel all the responsibility of that. So let me say right now that I am not a medical professional of any kind. And everything I'm saying here, I'm just going to offer you some tools that might work, that are worth playing around with, some things that have helped me, and play around with it, see if it works for you, use what works, lose what doesn't. But while we wait, I want to talk about this. This is a necklace I'm actually going to show you and talk more about in a vlog I have coming up on my Nashville trip, but it does tie into today. It says fearless woman, but if you listen to my podcast, you may know that I started breaking the word fearless in half into fearless. Fearless has been a theme for me. So when I saw this on my birthday trip in Nashville, I had to have it. And since it's Christmas time and people are looking for unique Christmas presents, this company, here's the little bag it came in. Island Girl. Maybe I should take it off so I can show you better. We'll see if I can get it back on. But I just want to show you how cool it is. And these live streams can be blurry sometimes. So hopefully, just so you can see what like a cute present it makes. So there's that side. And then this side. And it's just really, it's really detailed. Like here's the little, stop moving. Here's the little toggle at the end. So I just think this is a cool, it's a badass company. It's a much bigger company than I thought it was when I bought this necklace for myself. And then what made me actually think of this and want to talk about it was this ring here, which I also highly recommend checking out this shop. if you're looking to support like a really small biz. It's my friend Allison Sattinger. I had her back in the day when I used to do interviews on YouTube. I had a YouTube series called Every Which Way. And I hadn't seen Allison in years. And we got back in touch. I haven't seen her or talked to her in years since then either. But she asked me, she makes jewelry like this. And she custom made this for me. She makes custom jewelry a lot, but I love it. And she said, well, my first option was Rockstar or Dainty. And of course, I picked Rockstar. And then she asked me what my favorite flower was. And I said a poppy. And so this, she actually used a poppy petal and rolled it out however she does on her metal smithing machine. So this shape is the shape of a poppy. And then she asked me what my favorite stone is. This is my favorite stone, lapis lazuli. But I have tons of it. And I had always wanted a piece of ocean jasper. And so this is ocean jasper. And it's really detailed. Oh, it's dirty and tarnished inside. But this is her little signature thing there. And the name of her shop is Sunny, like sunshine, Sunny Rising on Etsy. So a shout out to Allison Sattinger. I just went and checked out her shop, and she has some witchy stuff in there that it's not cheap. It's not cheap. You're going to spend probably at least $100 on something in there. But if you're looking for something really, really special and unique, Sunny Rising. So the Barefoot Taurus, hello, Island Cowgirl. Yes, that's the name of this. Hi, Karen, you made it from Hawaii. Karen from Hawaii. So should we just get into it and just talk about anxiety and depression here? Where is my... So I wrote down your name so I wouldn't forget. This is dedicated to, and by request from Rachel, Jeanine, Tracy, and Melissa from yesterday's love stream. I asked you guys what you want me to talk about, and quite a few of you chimed in. Yes, please talk about anxiety and depression. I am happy to say that anxiety and depression is something that was very crippling for me as a person for many, 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 many years. I think I really started grappling with it. It probably started in elementary school, but I think I really started grappling with it in high school. And I don't want to get too much into my personal story. I want to like offer you solutions for yourself. But I experienced some bullying that kind of chased me out of school, that was my response to it. And then that was my late teens, and then into my 20s, I just suffered a lot, which was a weird thing for me because I'm a very outgoing person, and I actually moved to Hollywood to be a movie star. I wanted to be in movies. I wanted to be an actor. So you can probably imagine having really intense anxiety did not serve that very well. People would often comment that I was not great at auditioning, but I was really great in like a class situation, or if I actually got a job, like in the job. But I would have so much anxiety that my face would twitch. It still will. If you make me really, really nervous, my face will twitch, which is awful because then you're aware of it. And anxiety manifests for different people in different way, but the face twitching sucks. And your voice is like, so a lot of anxiety and depression, I was on the spiral of that throughout my 20s. And then I think I just got so sick of being sick of it by the time I got into my 30s that even though I was looking for solutions in my 20s, reading a lot of personal development, self-help, to me, the way I interpreted it was there was something wrong with me and I could fix it. I wanted to fix it. I was deeply ashamed of all the things that I did as a result of anxiety and depression, the hiding out, the withdrawal from the world, the not showing up for appointments, not showing up for auditions that mattered so much to me, but I just didn't show up. And I don't want to get too deep with it because I'll start crying. But I just want you to know I have a long history with this. And I haven't experienced anxiety and depression in many, many years. That is the good news. That when I sat down to think about how do you even talk about this? Because it's such a huge subject and everybody experiences anxiety and depression in a slightly different way. And even more than that, I think the cause of it is different for everybody. So it's a big responsibility to try to talk about it, or that's how I feel about it. But I just wanted to let you know there is hope because I suffered. I really did. I really struggled and suffered. And it really cost me professionally, personally, in every way you can think of. And the way I finally kicked its butt was with food. So I think it was a blessing that I did not get that information until I had already done everything I could think to do in terms of like personal development and learning mindfulness and learning to work with my own thoughts and having a certain attitude and how do you change your state. But food was the missing link for me. And what really got me on that track and really started making a huge difference in my life was a book called, who knows? If you know the name of this book, I'm going to wait. If you know the name of this book, I will give you a free ebook. I'm going to be doing giveaways. You can pick either the Spiritually Mature Witch or the Rich Witch ebook. And if you already have it, but you know the name of this, you know the answer to this question, I'll send it to a friend of yours as a gift. So does anybody know, it wasn't 80-10-10, does anybody know the book that I have talked about over and over and over again since the very beginning of Kick-Ass Witch as being the book that China City, nope. Oh, I'll give it a couple more minutes. Man, what else could I talk about? This is not a very fun contest. I didn't think this through. That was a spontaneous. Wayne Dyer was very helpful to me spiritually, and I think one of the best. I'm gonna chit chat for a minute and see if anybody can come up. Google it. Maybe you can find me talking about it. I don't know. We'll see if somebody can win the ebook. Wayne Dyer was very helpful. I definitely took a mind. As you know, there's mind, body, and spirit. They say to take a mind, body, and spirit approach. I was very much taking a mind and a spirit approach for years. And Wayne, yes, the Rook's Hollow. You, my friend, have won yourself a free ebook. Do you want the Spiritually Mature Witch or the Rich Witch? And would you like to gift it to a friend? Email me at joannadevoe@gmail.com and I will send you an ebook, or I will send it to whatever friend's email that you want to send me if you already have it. He guessed it. It was The Mood Cure by Julia Ross, MD. Laura asked, wait, what was the question? The question was, it was just a fun little challenge. What was the book that really changed my life in terms of overcoming anxiety and depression? It was The Mood Cure by Julia Ross, MD. So The Mood Cure is a really intense book. I've tried to share it with people over the years, and it's gonna recommend that you get off gluten, and I can't remember if it's all dairy because I actually eat butter now, because the part that is a problem for a lot of people, the reaction, the allergic reaction or the sensitivity that a lot of people have to dairy is actually in the protein in dairy. And butter is fat. Butter is the fat. The protein is removed. So I went many, many, many years of not eating dairy before I learned this. And I was like, I can eat butter. Clarified butter or ghee is even better. But I recommend grass-fed, like Kerrygold is great because that's something you can find at just about any grocery store. I think Walmart probably carries it. I know Costco does. But if you're going off dairy for health reasons, you might be able to have butter, but it's going to ask you to go off gluten and butter and sugar, really. But the part that people find overwhelming is the amino acid protocol. That's the part am I frozen, you guys? I am on my computer here, and I don't want to skip over this information. Love bug, Shauna. Hello. So you're welcome. You're welcome. I'm so glad you knew the answer. That's awesome. Lactose. Yes, some people, I keep freezing. Can you guys tell me if this is glitchy for you or if you're actually receiving this not glitchy? Okay. So there's an amino acid protocol in this book for rebuilding your brain. And this is the part that when I've tried to share it with friends and family that have anxiety, they're like, I am out. I'm out. I can't do all that. That's a lot of pills. And it is. It is. And she teaches you how, for example, like if anxiety is a problem or you have like a lot of hyperactivity and you can't like relax, GABA is an amino acid that might be helpful to you. If you need energy, if you feel very, very lethargic and heavy, it would be L-tyrosine or DLPA. These are amino acids. 5-HTP, actually, she did not teach me, but maybe this is the thing that opened my mind to it. My son has autism, for those of you who don't know, and a neurologist at UCLA, I was upset about, I felt like I got bullied into putting my son on Prozac, and he was on it for a few months, and it was very much against my belief system to put him on Prozac, and I hated what happened to him. He's like the happiest, most joyful kid, and he would just start crying for no reason. Like he would just be sad, and he didn't have a lot of words back then. So he would just say, I'm sad, and he would be crying. And it also created tics where like his head would be going like this, and then he'd try to stop it with his hands. It was heartbreaking. So I ended up seeing this neurologist at UCLA that was like, you don't need to give him Prozac. And he recommended 5-HTP. And he said it's the only, I can't remember if he said it's the only thing. That's the way my mind remembers it, but maybe it was the only over-the-counter thing that actually increases the serotonin in your brain. And the reason that they wanted him on Prozac and what the 5-HTP ended up helping him with was the obsessive compulsive disorder components of his autism. Like he still is very obsessive. Tanner Golf Ball DeVoe. We literally call him that now because he wanted to call himself that because he's obsessed with golf balls. But the 5-HTP really gave him a lot of freedom from that. And I started taking it for myself because I wanted to test everything out on myself before giving it to my little kid who I adore. But also, interestingly, and maybe this is because we have the same genes, I have found anything that has helped improve my son's condition has improved my condition. So it works out really, really well that way. So he can't have dairy, for example, because he's extremely lactose intolerant in a very disgusting, disturbing way. I'll just leave it at that. Instant results, and it's not good. Mine manifests as acne, and I had acne for years and years and years, and I do believe this is all tied in. I can totally go down this rabbit hole of talking about how I had 13 mercury fillings put in my face when I was, I think, 8 years old, and how a lot of my symptoms started manifesting after that point. The acne and the anxiety and the depression started presenting themselves not too long after, and we tried to attack it with antibiotics. I was on every antibiotic you can possibly imagine, every combination of antibiotic and topical for many years, which finally culminated in Accutane in my mid-teens. And I really believe we accidentally, this is nobody's fault, this is just what people did back then, destroyed my inner like microbiome. In addition to that, mercury, it is believed mercury passes through the placenta, so that could very well be why my son has autism. So this is all very complex. I hope I'm not overwhelming you guys. Are you with me? Okay. Psycho-Cybernetics. Yeah, that's an interesting book, by the way. Okay, so let me try to stay on track so I don't go too far off the rails here. So 5-HTP was really helpful to me. It increases the serotonin in your brain. You take it at night before you go to sleep. I'm not telling anybody to take any pills right now, but these amino acids you can all buy over the counter, maybe at your GNC, Whole Foods, Sprouts. You can definitely order them on the internet. And the Mood Cure will give you the protocol for this. And what's awesome about it is it's a lot in the beginning, but you're building up your brain again, and you eventually get to taper off and then get off the amino acids altogether. And then you have this toolkit. So later on down the road, if you're like, ooh, I'm feeling anxious again, you can be like, GABA. I know that GABA worked for that. And then another amazing thing, this is such a cool trick. I put this in the Sad to Sexy program. I don't know why it is this one particular kind of Alka-Seltzer Gold, but Alka-Seltzer Gold is amazing to have in your home if you have anxiety and a lot of like tension and you feel like, I don't know how to explain it, like this almost like metallic irritation in your brain, like road rage for no reason. Alka-Seltzer Gold can, the way it's described, I think in the book, is it re-alkalizes your system very, 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 very quickly. And I have definitely amazed many a friend and family member with Alka-Seltzer Gold and pulling it out like a magic trick. So, I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on about this. I see somebody recommending vegan. Going vegan for me was a huge step in my spiritual path. For me, I enjoy food a whole lot more, though have become such a junk food vegan. Yes, becoming a junk food vegan is a thing. I don't recommend veganism for anxiety and depression, but there are many people who would fight me on that. That's just my personal opinion. Or for autism. I personally have, and you will not like the Mood Cure if you're a vegan and if you're really dedicated to that for spiritual reasons, or if you believe that, I'm a big fan of, if you're not going to eat a vegan diet, to know where your food is coming from and to make sure that those animals are treated very respectfully and not traumatized, and that they actually get to enjoy their lives, whether you're just going to have butter, even if you're just going to add butter to your diet or ghee. You know, I think there's an ethical way to do that, but many vegans would absolutely insist that is not true. I was a raw vegan. I don't do things halfway. So I completely get that mindset, and maybe I'll change my mind again about it. I don't know. Food is definitely a hobby of mine, and I like to really dig into the research and the science. Both sides have a lot of research and science on their part, and they war. So I don't want to get into that in this video at all. But I will just give you a heads up. If you're a vegan, don't get the Mood Cure, because it'll irritate you, I think. I think the best thing to do, if you're interested, kind of circling back to what I was saying about taking a mind, body, spirit approach, I was focusing on mind and spirit, and it was bringing in body that made it, that set me free. If you're wondering, like, maybe that would work for me, maybe I have some food sensitivity, or maybe I have depleted the protein stores in my brain. Maybe I need more fat. Your brain needs fat. That's just a fact. Your brain needs fat. One of the best things you can do is the whole 30, and it's not as hard as people make it seem. It's mentally challenging. But it's mentally challenging. I'll say that. I think that's the part that people have a hard time with. It's like quitting an addiction. But the awesome thing about the Whole 30 is that you do, for 30 days, you eat whole foods, real foods, straight from Mother Nature. You don't eat sugar. You don't eat preservatives. You don't eat processed food of any kind. You know, there's a list of things you can't eat, but there's tons of things you can. And it's really telling when if you look at the list and you're like, I can't eat any of my favorite things. That's probably because you're eating a lot of processed fake food. So I recommend the Whole30 for people because it's something you could do if you're a vegan. It's something you could do if you're like paleo, or it's something you could do if you're just living off the standard American diet and you're sick of being sick, or you're sick of being anxious and depressed. It's a 30-day protocol with tons of built-in support, which I think is really important, like people doing it along with you and cheering you along. And really 30 days in the scheme of things is not that long. It's not that long. And at the end of it, you'll be able to reassess, did this help me at all with the anxiety and depression? It's really important if you're doing it for anxiety and depression to make note, to maybe explore in the before, like the week before you do it, how you feel, what your energy levels are, what time of day you typically feel anxious, how many hours of sleep you're getting, things like that. So then you can go back at the end of the 30 days and, you know, answer all those same questions and compare notes, because it's easy to forget. If you're gradually feeling better and better, you might not even notice how radical the change was. So it's great to make notes. I did not mean to get this far down into talking about food and amino acids and all of that, but I'm not sorry, because that's what worked for me. Damn, girl, that sucks. Have you had them replaced with porcelain? No, I have a lot of dental problems, and I still have a little bit of mercury, but that's another thing. I think let's just go into talking about before I leave talking about food, I just want to say it would be really helpful to go to the doctor before I think you consider, if you're not on medication yet, and you're a person who's reluctant to go on medication, I think the mood cure could be really helpful. You know, if you're willing to experiment with amino acids, they're completely natural. They're the building blocks of protein. I also recommend going to the doctor, having your thyroid checked. It could be a thyroid problem, having your hormone levels checked, especially if you're a woman, you know, in the range of like perimenopause or beyond that, which starts really early. People argue about when it starts. Some people say it's as early as your late 20s. I have found it's more like your mid 30s, but whatever. See if you can get your hormones checked, specifically your thyroid. Like ask for get the labs done. I'm sorry, I can't remember what the lab names are, but you do need to maybe do some Googling around this before you go see your doctor, because you want to be pretty aggressive about it. And then also see if they can test your mercury levels if you suspect there might be something going on there. Like if you have mercury fillings, or if you eat a lot of fish, a lot of seafood, go find out, because I mean, it's just amazing how long people will suffer when the fix is like so simple. Like you have mercury toxicity, which is a big bad problem, but also it's a solvable one. And you can end the suffering pretty quickly. So other things I recommend, St. John's wort was extremely helpful to me until I found the mood cure. I'm a person who's really, really sensitive to herbs and things like that. And I was always told it'll take 2 weeks for the St. John's wort to kick in. I always felt it right away. And the best brand I used, keep in mind, this might not even exist anymore because it was so long ago for me, but Movana. It was called Movana, and it was just super high quality. I felt it right away. It was very, very helpful. If you have a lot of anxiety, you might be deficient in magnesium. And magnesium is found in greens, I believe, but also almonds and dark chocolate. So maybe you can get yourself some dark chocolate almonds to munch on as your evening snack. Or you can get Pure Calm. I don't think it's the tastiest. Some people like it. My son thinks it's awesome. It's just like this cylinder of powder it comes in a lot of different flavors, mostly citrus, like fruity flavors. And you want to start small because too much can cause disaster pants. I love that term because it's funny and it's a graceful way of saying diarrhea. Disaster pants sounds much nicer and funnier. So start small, but you stir some into a little tiny bit of water and drink it. It's kind of like Alka-Seltzer, fruity Alka-Seltzer, and or you can just supplement with magnesium and see if that helps you out. Thank you for your thoughts on veganism. This is the Rick's Hollow. I fully get that it isn't for everyone, but as I say, is one which helped me with difficult relationship with food and body image. For sure. I definitely know that. And I know tons and tons of people that I interact with on the internet and in my own, private offline life are vegans. I have tons of respect for living that lifestyle. And it, again, like, I think do what works for you and always stay open to changing your mind. I think that one of the most restricting things is dogmatic thinking when it comes to any of this. So that kind of brings me around. It's funny too, I wrote the book of shadow or the book of fear in the title because I couldn't list in the title all the things I wanted to talk about here today, but we will get to the book of fear. But the main thing that I would recommend is something that impacts everything I'm saying here today. It's to take complete responsibility for yourself and for what you want. And I'm a fan of breaking words in half, apparently. Break the word in half. Response, ability. So your ability to respond, like take on that responsibility for your life because no one else is going to do it for you. And get really, really committed and determined to figure this out. So instead of identifying as a person that has anxiety and depression, just flip the script a little bit and say, I am a person who has been dealing with or feeling anxiety and depression for this many years, and I am committed to putting this experience behind me as soon as possible. Something like that, like get a mindset shift and start exploring the different options for you. And just that sense of determination, it could take you years, I'm sorry to say, because it did me, and I would be an obnoxious fool to not tell you that. But the journey wasn't miserable because I was determined to figure it out. Things work for a little bit of time and you're like, yes, okay, mindfulness, this is working, this is working, this is working. But if you have some physical problem, it ends up circling back around and you're like down again and then you're disappointed. But don't throw out the mindfulness because you fell back into depression. Just say, okay, well, I know mindfulness works for me, at least for a period of time. So I'll just put that in my toolbox, but I need to find something else now and just keep building your toolbox like one tool at a time, and don't get too married to one thing. Like stay open to all the possibilities until you really find what works with you. And because our hormones fluctuate as we age, our energy levels change, you might have to tweak it depending on why you have anxiety and depression. If you have anxiety and depression purely as a manifestation of some programming you received as a child, if you grew up in an abusive environment, or you learned counterproductive coping skills in some way, or you have a major case of monkey mind and you're focusing on things that make you feel anxious and you're in this loop of anxious thinking that then leads to like the learned helplessness of depression, and you're circling back around in this feedback loop. The good news there is that there's nothing wrong with you physically if that's your situation. And so learning to work with your mind, asking spirit to help you in whatever way you work with spirit is going to be the way to go. And that is something that you can definitely put behind you. And don't make yourself wrong again for it, because those patterns were in place for a reason. You put them in place to keep yourself safe. So just like thank your subconscious mind or your 6-year-old self for being like, okay, thank you for creating this hypervigilance where I think I need to like run through my day all day long and never sleep and stay on top of it and manage every conversation I ever had. Like, thank that part of you that decided it was keeping you safe that way, and say, but I'm going to take it from here. Is this making sense? I should probably keep checking in with you guys. This is such a big subject. Good talk is self-care. Yeah, the way that you talk to yourself is so important. And this brings me around to the book of fear too, which is something I actually started working with this year. Because I brought up a lot of fear for me when I decided I wanted to make some changes in my business. And I kind of threw myself into the space of chaos and not knowing. And the gift in that is all your fears like bubble up to the surface and you get to deal with them. And so what the book of fear is something I just made up for myself as a tool this year that I found was very helpful. If you are a law of attraction practitioner and you do not want to name like a journal of yours the book of fear because you have a superstition around that, like saying the book of fear, like maybe you're worried that you will manifest more things to be afraid of or more fear, name it the book of light or something like that. But it's about giving voice to your fear and putting it on the page. And I did this every day for a while where I just, anytime I felt a fear thought come up or I had a fear thought, I would just scribble it down. So it was like my fear had a voice. I was giving it a voice. And when you put it on the page, it's amazing how ridiculous those fears can be. Sometimes you're like, ugh, you don't even know what's going on in your own mind, I think, sometimes until you write it down and you can actually see it. And it can create a lot of self-compassion, a lot of self-empathy. It can help you to rewrite the story and to challenge it, to say, is that true? Is that fear true? These are weird beliefs that have been put in back in the back of your mind at some point in your life that you're still carrying around with you today. So just giving fear a voice allows you to self-parent in a really powerful way. So you could choose to debate that voice. Like once you see it on the page and you've kind of personified fear and been like, here, fear, here's your journal, knock yourself out. You can play therapist with this character called fear. You can self-parent it and have a lot of compassion. You can ask yourself, like, at what age was this fear put in place? What age did this thought become a belief for me? And that, like, a lot of times the tears will start flowing because you realize, like, I was 4 years old. And it brings up a lot of compassion for yourself. One that was the one that really stands out for me when I was really working with the book of fear was when I was doing the Saturn's Day evening post. And I really started getting uncomfortable because the Saturn's Day evening post, if you don't know, it was something I did on my podcast where I would just show up on Saturn's Day on Saturday and just talk about all the things I loved, sing stupid songs, talk about the movies I saw. And I was just being myself. And at that point, I think about 6,000 people in a couple of weeks' time were downloading the episodes when they came out. And I started thinking, like, 6,000 people just heard me sing this really goofy song, and they might not know at all anything about me. This could be the first episode they ever landed on. And it brought up a lot of insecurity and fear for me. And it, when I was working with the book of fear, it came up as they think I'm a joke. People think I'm a joke. And if you were listening to yesterday's episode, you might have heard me say that now I embrace the word nerd. But I was mortified in my elementary school years when people called me a nerd and little weirdo. And it feeling like a joke is why I didn't like that. I felt like I was a joke. I felt like people were laughing at me and that they weren't taking me serious. And so this working with the book of fear is pretty powerful stuff. And that's why I put it in the title here, because I wanted to mention that as one of the tools. It's a psycho-spiritual tool that you can use to embrace your fear and integrate it in a way that is empowering, because it's not going to go away. It's there, right? And so you need to heal those old thoughts. Like a belief is just a thought on repeat. It's just a stubborn thought that is repeating again and again and again and again, and you might not even know it's there. Often we experience fear, especially if you suffer with anxiety. Like you have so much fear, but you don't even know what you're afraid of because it manifests in physical ways. Your heart is racing, you can't breathe, you just feel like not okay. And it helps to just identify your thoughts and just to write down whatever comes to mind. And it's awesome to get it out of your head and on a piece of paper. Yes, it's making sense. Reminds me a lot of Robert Ilhato's approach to working with the coping mechanisms that we all developed around childhood trauma. Coping mechanisms is a great way to put it too. It's like, are your coping mechanisms serving you? You definitely thought they were serving you when they're a little kid, but if you have a lot of anxiety and depression, what often happens is people withdraw from the world and they develop like avoidant personalities. They don't want to answer the phone. They don't want to open the mail. They don't want to open the door when someone knocks on the door. They stop showing up for work or school. They flake out on their friends at the last minute. And this is so damaging. It's a weird combination, because I remember being back in that place and I would feel very anxious about it. Like, what is my friend going to think of me? I'm canceling again at the last minute. They may already be sitting there waiting for me. And now they're going to get a phone call that I'm not showing up. I would have that. But once I was like, made that phone call that I'm not showing up, I felt such freedom. A relief. It was like a release. I would release myself, and you can get into a loop with that where it just starts creating more and more and more anxiety and depression, anxiety and depression, anxiety and depression, anxiety and depression, because you're literally screwing up your life. And, like maybe your bills aren't getting paid. Maybe you're losing your friends. Maybe, you think maybe you're damaging your reputation at work, something like that. Like that produces anxiety. But the anxiety produces that behavior, and then that behavior produces more anxiety, and it just goes around and around and around. Anxiety is so exhausting. So of course you're going to crash and develop either a sense of learned helplessness, because you cannot be hypervigilant all the time. You cannot be in a state of fear all the time. It's, you get to a point where you're just debilitated by it, or it's just physically draining and exhausting. So I hope this is helpful, you guys. I have missed so much in the comment section. I see it like going ding, 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 ding. In addition to self-parenting too, and thinking about personifying your fear as like your 6-year-old inner you. I have a couple of suggestions around this. I hope I can hold them in my head long enough to get them out. One thing is something I suggested to a coaching client once that we both loved. And it really happened spur of the moment. And I'm like, this is a thing. I definitely am going to put this in a program. And we were both really excited about it. But I got her thinking about like, what age was this fear born, and this belief and all of that. She had a lot of abandonment issues, and I recommended altar to her. I can't remember how old she was, but let's just say an altar to her 4-year-old self. And she received so much neglect as a little kid. She didn't even know if she had a picture of herself around that age, because her family didn't give her a lot of love. They didn't take a lot of pictures of her when she was a kid. But what I recommended is that she get a picture of herself around that age of 4 years old. How can you not look at a picture of a little 4-year-old and feel something, right? Put it in a picture frame and create a little altar. And then every day before you go to work or when you get home from work, go to the altar, go to that picture, look at your little 4-year-old self being all cute and adorable when this old pattern was put in place, and say, hey, honey, hey, I'm here. What can I do for you today? I'm thinking about you. Like, how can I make you feel better, taken care of, whatever. And you can bring her little things that you know she likes, you know, like you bring her a little rock or a little feather or something that your 4-year-old wanted so much that she didn't receive. And you kind of build up this little altar. So that's one thing you can play around with if you're interested in self-parenting. And then if self-parenting is not really your jam, or you don't have a lot of self-compassion for your inner child, another thing you can think of if you're a big animal lover, if you're a vegan because you're an animal lover, is to think of your body as an animal. And this comes back to wild geese. Mary Oliver calling your body like the soft animal of your body. Just let the soft animal of your body love what it loves. And I'm like literally doing this right now, because if you're going to think of your body as an animal, it's so helpful if you have a lot of anxiety in particular. Like, we crave human touch. So you might see me doing stuff like this. This was really helpful to me, was incorporating the body component of mind, body, spirit. It wasn't just about food. It wasn't about anxiety or amino acids alone. It was about taking my hands and pushing them into prayer pose, and then pushing this part of my thumb into like that little notch below kind of where your ribs are, with some pressure. And if you try that right now, no matter what state you're in, and you take a breath, you'll feel the calming effects of that. Or if you just go like this and you just feel your body, like, I am here now, right? And you start feeling your body. You can pet your head like a cat. It's amazing how these things actually work. So when you think of the soft animal of your body, or think of your body, it's having these chemical reactions of anxiety and depression, to think of it as an anxious, nervous animal. Like, how would you feel if you found a cat in your backyard who was scared to death of humans, and you knew, like, you know, this cat or dog or whatever had probably been abused at some point? Like, what do you feel for that animal? And what would you do to comfort that animal? And so you can start doing things like that for yourself. The Rook's Hollow, you're full of good stuff today. I can't wait to go back and read through the comments. That picture method work reminds me of Louise Hay. She did some guided meditations worth checking out, which helped me heal and move on from childhood. Louise Hay is wonderful. She gave us all of Hay House, for one, and she's the most amazing example of a late bloomer, because I don't think Hay House launched till she was like in her 60s. But her work specifically, that's a publishing house for those who don't know. They publish Wayne Dyer and Abraham Hicks and all kinds of new agey people. But Louise Hay's work in particular is very gentle. She was such a gentle, soothing, loving presence. She really came to prominence during the AIDS epidemic in America, and working with gay men that had AIDS and really getting in there with them, because there was a lot of fear during that time of interacting with people with AIDS, like physically interacting with them or being in the same room with them, because people were afraid it was contagious. And so it was amazing to see this woman going into these like circles with these gay men, and them all getting to talk about and process all the traumas of their life, and her just holding space for this group of men in this beautiful way. I could cry again. Today's a crying video. She would do these things called the hay rides, and she was just an amazing woman. But if you're interested, if you've never picked up a Louise Hay anything, I recommend starting with You Can Heal Your Life. And it's just a sweet, beautiful, gentle book from a sweet, beautiful, gentle soul. I highly recommend that. And oh, I'm talking a long time today. What else do I have here? All right, 2 more things I really want to talk about. Which order should I say this in? Let's do one more technique. One more thing you can do is, If you have a lot of anxiety and depression, you might not be sleeping very well. That's one of the major issues that come up around anxiety and depression. It often comes with, oh geez, the word just flew out of my head. What is it when you can't sleep? Help me, comment section. What is it called when you can't sleep? I'm having a brain fart moment. At any rate, you can't sleep. Something to do is one of the worst things when you can't sleep. Why can't I think of what this is called? Insomnia. Insomnia. Thank you, Rachel. You, Love Satine, Jane, Love Bugs, Shauna, you're all yelling at me. Insomnia. Thank you. Thank you. I hate that when I have something on the tip of my brain. So insomnia is awesome because it's kind of, again, it like feeds into itself. So you can't sleep. So then you're trying to sleep. And so then you can't sleep because you have anxiety. But then the fact that you can't sleep gives you more anxiety. So then you really can't sleep, which then like it just keeps going around and around and around. It can get to where you're laying there and like your heart's racing and you're looking at the clock and you realize, okay, if I could just sleep for like 5 hours, I'll be okay tomorrow. Okay, 3 hours. If I could just get 3 hours, like you just start watching the clock and counting down. It is so unfun. I would recommend taking this opportunity to practice things that will really help you with the monkey mind of anxiety and learn to focus your thoughts, because your emotions follow your thoughts and your behavior and your state of being follows your emotion. So if you take that opportunity to shut the lights off and lay down in bed. Don't tell yourself you have to go to sleep because that'll just make you anxious about falling asleep. You could do one of two things. There's probably many other things you could do. But the two that I'm thinking of, one is practice meditating. Use that as your time to work on your meditation practice. Meditation is an amazing thing for all of us to do. It's letting go of the outer and going within and going back to source, going back to the soul space of who you really are. And so practicing meditation is a great thing. A lot of people with anxiety struggle with meditation, and it helps to give your brain something to do. So instead of, I have to clear my brain of all thoughts, there's not an anxiety producing thought at all. Stop thinking. Instead, guide your brain into practicing and rehearsing and mentally scripting the day ahead. This is something that we just worked with on Patreon in a backward way. We were rewriting the day that we just experienced, or rewriting a memory. But I'm talking about picturing yourself living your life without anxiety and depression and practicing it in your mind. So going through, and keep it very, very pleasant, right? So just put yourself in the situation, whatever tomorrow brings. You have to go to work, you're going home to see your mom, whatever you're doing the next day, just lay there in bed and mentally practice it. And practice yourself being awesome. Practice yourself being in the state that you want to be in. Practice yourself feeling the way you want to feel. Practice yourself, laughing with somebody or feeling really empowered. Get goofy with it. Picture yourself as a superhero, but just keep entertaining yourself with this movie of your mind. And you may find, because you're not trying to fall asleep anymore, that you do fall asleep. And I strongly believe that there is a metaphysical component to this, and that you literally are scripting the day to come. So there's a magical component, a metaphysical component as a major, maybe not even a side benefit, maybe as the main benefit. Maybe the side benefit is you end up accidentally falling asleep. And the main benefit is that you are literally setting the tone for the future in a really empowering way. The other thing, the last thing I wanted to mention is, I'm going to say this as gently as I can. But this is something, again, this comes back to coaching. I noticed this. People will argue for their limitations. They'll get very, very attached to, I'm a person with anxiety and depression. Do not try to talk me out of this. It becomes an identity for them. And you can, and I'm not saying this is true of you at all, but it can be a way of getting attention and love from people because it becomes such a part of your identity. And, there's the backlash to that where you feel guilty about it, or you wear the people out in your life, because compassion fatigue is a real thing. Anybody that works in, as a nurse, or that works with, in a social worker capacity, or if you're caring for a terminally ill patient, or you're caring for somebody that has extreme special needs, what compassion fatigue is. So there's a lot of fallout to having anxiety and depression that you can't really control. But don't argue for it. Don't defend and protect, I am a person with anxiety and depression. That kind of goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, to be like, re-script that for yourself. Release that as part of your identity. It's not who you are. It's just not who you are. It's something you're experiencing. And these are symptoms. It's your body giving you messages, going back to the animal of your body. It's telling you something is wrong. Something is not in balance. Pain is a messenger. This is one of the reasons why I would not recommend turning to medication as a first step for many people. I think if you're feeling very suicidal or hopeless, or if you're so drowning in anxiety and depression that you don't even know where to start, that working with an awesome doctor and getting on some kind of medication can be awesome as a temporary life raft for you. Some people, it's going to be a lifelong thing, because it basically masks the symptoms. It silences the symptoms enough for you to get your head above water and start doing the work that you need to do in reprogramming your mind, working out old childhood issues. So I highly recommend that you get an amazing coach or an amazing therapist or amazing friend to do that work as well while you are on the medication, for example. And I don't even know what got me started on that loop, but I'm glad I mentioned the medication, because a lot of people need to be on it. I'm not saying it's wrong to go on medication. I'm just saying if your anxiety and depression is low grade enough to where you have the wherewithal to start working with some of these other things I mentioned, I recommend checking those out first, because what you want to do is you want to get to the root of it. Why do I have these symptoms? What is the message? What is my body trying to tell me? It could be trying to tell me you have mercury poisoning. It could be trying to tell me you have suppressed some deeply traumatic issues that you need to bring up to be healed, or we're not going away until you do that. It could be any number of things, but the root of it, why is it here? It's a messenger. It's trying to tell you something about yourself, and you can't hear the message if you're just so wrapped up in the identity of it. So again, I say, think of it as anxiety and depression is something that I'm experiencing right now, and I'm looking forward to freeing myself of. Or anxiety and depression is a feeling that I've been having for 10 years, and I am ready to feel something else. Just empower yourself. Don't argue for your limitations. See it for what it is. It's not who you are. It's an experience that you're having. So Jane Jones, thank you, Joanna. You are welcome. I'm actually going to take off because I've been talking officially for an hour here. Let me know. Will you guys email me or comment down below or tweet me? I'm such a Twitter nerd. I would love to know what you guys want me to talk about, because like I keep saying, I'm going to be showing up here for these love streams, mostly on weekdays. I'm hoping to have some vlogs edited and put together for Saturday and Sunday so I can sleep in like I like to do on the weekend and catch up on my sleep debt. So I have many, many more love streams to come, and I love to I love to customize them to what you all want. So don't forget too that Shadow Love, well, yesterday was Vlogmas 3. The code, if you want to get $10 off Shadow Love, which is it's an audio journey for working with Shadow Love in order to create a greater sense of self-love. That is this week. You get $10 off when you use the code VLOGMAS3 at checkout. And that is down below. That is down below. And if you haven't signed up for the free 3 video series for You Are a Queen, you can do that below too. And it's totally free. I hope you all enjoyed this. Rooks Hollow, I will be getting your ebook. Hopefully you've emailed me already at joannadebo@gmail.com. And until we meet again, I'm going to read all your comments as soon as I hang up here. Much love to you. Peace.